process is inclusivity, and somewhere along the line that inclusivity was lost. Sebab yelah kita dah kotak kan, designer public dia tak ada merge dia. Aku fikir masalah korang and then korang kena telan aja apa yang aku cakap ni without the process of being inclusive. So I think this is where kita backtrack a little. Kita trying to find that common ground yang kita boleh berbincang, kita boleh dengar cakap pakar, kita boleh dengar cakap masalah dan rintihan the masses, and kita can come to solutions, which is design the outcome of design. Hai Razif, khabar?
Sihat tak? Actually bila nak start benda ni aku pun macam tak berapa sure nak start. Tapi first of all aku rasa kita dah agreed somewhat that the show moving forward will be called
Cakar Ayam.
Cakar Ayam.
Sebab apa Cakar Ayam ni? Cakar Ayam ni dia rough kan? Rough around the edges,
yeah.
Kalau designers ke apa, it's the sketch, the first sketch Cakar Ayam tu. Jadi Cakar Ayam ni for this show is very rough. Kita casual, santai, belasah je. And then hopefully daripada Cakar Ayam dia jadi something yang cantik
lah kan. Selalu macam tu lah. Dan aku terdetik sebab rasa macam yelah, kita kalau nak mula sesuatu kita tak boleh nak fikir benda tu kena cantik mula-mula. Selalunya dia start dengan idea dan kita tengoklah macam mana idea ni boleh take off kan.
So okay, speaking about ideas, semua yang terjadi ni berdasarkan satu idea, then it led you to start KLDF ataupun Kuala Lumpur Design Festival. Cuba cerita sikit, KLDF ni apa sebenarnya? Apa benda ni? Kenapa kita kat sini? Why?
The origin story.
Tapi bagi senang lah.
Okay. Sebenarnya benda ni I think it's compounded effect over the years yang aku start dengan certain friends, a couple of friends and it was way back in 2007 when we founded this thing called Think Lab.
Yeah.
So the combination of idea Think Lab tu sebenarnya memberikan dimensi intellectual dalam design and dipelopori oleh Profesor Azlaini lah masa tu dekat kita punya faculty.
Okay.
So dia ada cakap dia ada satu poster kat belakang dia kan. Dalam belakang dekat pejabat dia ada satu poster belakang dilarang bodoh. So ever since then aku rasa macam wow.
Kau reprint balik tak poster tu?
Aku rasa dia ada simpan poster tu.
Tapi itu betul. I think that should be kita punya merch lah. Dilarang bodoh. So it's just an interesting thought where he always encourages us to start reading. And aku terpanggil hari tu masa kita jumpa Mas Budi Pradono from Bintaro Design Office. Dia cakap, designers, creative architects should read and read more, and dengan membaca itu memberikan lebih banyak idea kan. So aku rasa that's what's actually missing during at that time where Azlaini was fighting for designers should be reading. Kau bayangkan at the age of 18-19 aku dicampak buku macam Gaston Bachelard, Poetics of Space, and immediately rosak otak aku. Kau faham?
Tak faham. There are pages that you have to reread and reread again. Bila dah graduate, dah kerja, dah start buat benda pakai tangan, kerja jadi kontraktor kejap, you start to realise the formality of how we create this world yang macam ni kita bina ni, partly is what we call make believe tau.
Okay.
Cumanya dia datang dari segi ekonomi, profesional dan sebagainya, and it's not, dia bukan dongeng, tapi it sits in reality. Jadi balik pada macam mana KLDF tu eventually happen, it was because of people in the industry, associations dan sebagainya dahagakan ekosistem yang sihat dekat dalam design kat Malaysia.
But you forgot, sebenarnya the window for it to happen was during COVID.
Yeah.
Sebab masa COVID tu, I think kita mencari ruang, kita mencari platform yang berbeza untuk cari macam how do we engage atau participate dalam dunia design ni, but in a new context yang dah different. Sebab with COVID everything changed, work changed, how we communicated changed, and then we were talking about
apa masalah dengan design ni, kenapa, how do we push it forward? If things are going to be like this forever, then kita pun kena berubah lah as designers. So I think daripada situ we started playing around with many different ideas, platforms, and then we looked at pelbagai cabang, satu through discussion, satu through social media, and of course the festival itself, where we thought that to push design ni dia kena ada a vision. Kalau tak ada vision, semua benda jadi selera, tak ada asal usul. But if there's a consolidated vision to make, tak kisahlah, it can be a product, but I think in this sense it's a festival, Kuala Lumpur's own design festival.
Yeah, actually one of the design week I was involved back in 2012. ICOD, now it's called ICOD, but before that it was called ICOGRADA. It's a World Body for Graphic Design Association, and we held the first International Graphic Design Association week dekat Kuching.
Yeah.
And the theme was discovery, and it's all about culture, it's all about meaning, it's all about preserving traditions and so forth. Masa tu interesting sebab you get to see Australian designers, Cuban, all across the world were talking about how they could implement their cultural background to modern design. And I remember there's one particular project, I can't remember who did it, but it was an airline sort of branding work. It was a branding exercise for an airline, and the way they manifested the entire tribal culture into every part, the storytelling. I've never cried at the moment in which I felt so close to the brand or the story, and that kind of like resonated me in an impact where, being Malaysian, aku rasa our cultural dimensions of this multicultural punya society actually exist, and there's so much stories to tell, and
so many.
Yeah, so many. And bila tengok balik kan, aku rasa that is one key point that we're missing in how to kind of like exist in the world, at least as an identity.
How do we see
as
ourselves
an identity
in the world?
Yeah,
that's
as an identity.
You're obviously a very deep person. Macam aku dengar pun aku rasa macam berat lah. Tapi to get to this stage, belum nasi lemak lagi. Nasi lemak nanti kita order. Tapi before that, aku just nak understand macam mana upbringing kau ni. How did you get to this situation? Macam dulu, kau ni memang pandai melukis ke, atau ke kau suka buat benda?
Actually, I was blessed because my mom pushed us to membaca daripada awal.
So it's through reading.
So it's through reading lah. The enable items and all that lah. The usual materials.
So tak adalah conventional, tak adalah designer tu terus ada talent, ada bakat. Tak semestinya lah.
Tak. Aku rasa there are different facets of what design can do kan. Ada setengah buat modelling, ada setengah buat clay, ada setengah thinking by drawing, ada setengah thinking by reading or writing. And aku suka bila Fendi cakap, Razif, kita Malay designers tak banyak menulis. Kalau menulis pun banyak agaknya academicians to submit their PhD papers.
Yeah, so it's academic lah.
Yeah, an academic thing. And one really good design books yang aku rasa locally published is Kevin McLeod's book, Small Project.
Yeah.
Those are like that is thinking by hand, thinking. It's almost mirror to Yeni Palasma's work of.
But this is later in your life. Ni macam early on ni, macam how did you frame your context so and manifest into who you are today?
I think this is my mom lah. Mak aku lah. They always my parents they always drill me. Reading, understand what you read, always be patient. And if you don't understand, reread again. Don't try to assume. And if you're not sure, ask around.
I guess it's this inquisitiveness lah.
Yeah. Maybe it's just basically being precise in your thoughts and your emotions.
But it came from a place where you wanted to understand your context, kan?
Yeah.
Your world.
Yeah.
Because I think that would be the same for me.
Yeah.
Sebab again, I think kita pun daripada family biasa. My parents just cikgu, lecturer dekat university. So when they did their postgraduate, on travel lah as families. Dekat one country to another, lepas saya buat masters, saya buat PhD. So for me personally, I was uprooted and put in a different context.
Oh, you consider a third culture kid?
I'm a third culture kid lah. Tapi but it's true that uprooting tu, you needed to adapt and you needed to understand. And from there, when you understood the context, then you can kind of be at ease with your surrounding. So I think that was again similar to you, a process of deconstructing ataupun kita cuba faham our surroundings. And I think kita sebenarnya more aware lah, aware. Tapi is this awareness through the many different mediums, writing, visuals, graphics,
conversations with our friends who were growing up.
Conversation.
Yeah, like aku rasa I'm kind of blessed growing up in Subang because as early as Darjah 2, Darjah 3 we're exposed to comics. We're talking about X-Men, we're talking about Spider-Man, all those stuff, like really a lot of global input coming in, we share stories and all that kan. And of course you still have your Dewata Raya now coming in together kan. Cumanya I think being in Subang growing up, you're always trying to find a sense of
Dulu kedai komik kat mana?
SS15 ada dua.
SS15
ada dua. Satu Comics Corner, the other one is I totally forgot what it's called, but it's just everybody trading cards, jerseys, whatever they want, stuff. Cumanya macam I come from mixed parentage, and not like truly mixed parentage. My mom is 3/4 Chinese, and we have cousins, Chinese cousins in Singapore. I can't say being mixed, but having some relation to what mixed marriages look like. I've always been put in a situation where, who am I? What do I do? And how do I manifest this as a person? It's not like you're seeking for attention, but it's just trying to rationalize, who am I? Am I unique? Am I different?
Malaysia ni macam the country, our country ni macam mixed marriage kan, banyak different ni. So I think what's happening now sebenarnya sekarang ni kita trying to understand ourselves kan. So sebenarnya the last 50 plus years since Merdeka, it was all about that. I think one topic yang kadang-kadang I feel fed up is topik identity ni. Sampai sekarang
let's talk about KLDF wants to talk about that sebab when we had a meeting with Datuk Sulaiman, which is top tier management in DBKL, always argues that everybody wants to talk about identity KL. Bukan KL tak ada identity ke?
Itulah.
Kan? And then bila bercakap tentang, and I used to work with Edin Khoo, anak Profesor Khoo K. Kim. And kalau jumpa Profesor Khoo tu mendiang, dia akan sentiasa bercakap siapa yang buka KL, and he always refers to Sultan Puasa. And Sultan Puasa is non-existent in a lot of general historical knowledge. And if you go to macam KL City Gallery, Dap Aloy and the usual suspects lah. And in this sort of filtering information or historical manners, aku rasa macam we're doing this justice to the what integrity and history does to a country. And going back to that, aku rasa it's interesting to talk about Kuala Lumpur Design Festival. In that sort of like perspective, in terms of meaning, in terms of progression, in terms of pushing the work innovation in your own comfortable space and manner, bukan terikut-ikut cara ini AI, orang buat AI kita kena ikut. And aku rasa aku terpanggil dengan another conversation aku ada dengan program director kita orang, Danny Wicaksono, Bintaro juga. Dia kata kenapa kita nak ikut AI ni, adakah ada agenda di belakang, sebalik belakang ni, kan. Sambil tu dia tengah meeting dengan Rem Kuras kan, aku macam wow, okay. And what really struck me is you create your own narrative and don't allow people to dictate who you are. That is your true value in where you want to find design and identity.
Narrative.
And it's such a powerful and impactful sort of like 1 hour conversation. Initially it was supposed to be like 20-minute catch up, what we want to talk about kan. So it got draggy and it was fun, but at the same time it had to go back to the reality of the world, which is makan anak, tidur and all that. So that became
interesting. You talk about narrative ni penceritaan lah. Penceritaan. So when we talk about, bila kita bercerita, dia datang daripada text, daripada language, and then language and text ni decompose ataupun diolah.
But don't forget, text only came. Text is not a Malay thing.
It's not a Malay thing.
It's atasan.
Betul. And it's very verbal. So a lot of the things yang macam
oral history.
So macam kita, we are community of storytellers.
Yeah.
Our history is passed down through stories.
Yeah.
And sometimes these stories change.
Yeah.
But I think what's important is macam now we recognize that, but it's using technology and the platforms that we have to kind of take it a different level where we can place ourselves in documented history,
Yeah.
which wasn't apparent dulu.
Yeah.
So I think this is a way moving forward.
Yeah.
So tak tahulah, I don't know if it's a negative or a positive. There's a state of temporariness in who we are. Macam after one generation passes, they take along with them the stories, and what's left is whatever is conveyed. So dia ni going back to who we are, macam cikgu silat kan. Kadang dia ada apa 9 buku, 9 buah bunga. Dia ajar kat anak murid dia 8 aja.
Yeah.
So the last one tu, so as generations go by, macam we're left, I think sebenarnya sekarang ni this conversation, we're left with satu bunga. So we need to
satu bunga yang direplicate guna CNC machine,
guna CNC machine
ataupun molding plastik.
Mungkin. So dekat situ rasa banyak kekosongan.
Yeah. It's interesting bila kau cakap ni, because I was blessed to be able to work with adik guru Muhaimin Nasrullah. Dia antara dua adik guru yang terlibat dalam seni ukiran. Salah seorangnya lagi Nur Haizanuddin, Kampung Raja Besut. And kerja dengan Muhaimin ni is interesting because it was a spin-off project that I did with Malaysian Timber Board.
Okay.
Actually CWSB, anak syarikat MTIB. Cadangan idea dia untuk menggabungkan idea design dan ukiran, and it really got me thinking of the value system rather than just the design. And aku rasa bila kita cakap pasal design, dia terus bercambah ke objek dan produk.
Betul.
Dan tak banyak bacaan kritis atau debate yang sebagainya yang melibatkan arus conversation of apa wujudnya ukiran untuk zaman sekarang.
Faham?
Okay. So when we were working on those project, it was very interesting because dia sendiri kata dia punya guru lah, kata bunga yang dia pilih untuk diri dia tu sendiri is identity dia. Maknanya kalau bunga sekian-sekian, ini identity dia. Dari situ kita nampak olahan identity tu dipilih atau memilih atas dasar dekat dia dengan nature. And I was like, how come we never learned all this in school? Obviously, the idea of design is a very modern thing.
It's a very modern
It's a very modern thing. It's less than 100 years in Malaysia.
Yeah.
Maybe more, slightly more. Since
Slightly,
PAM this year 100 years,
PAM 100 years, yeah.
kan? So, cuma the evolution tu tak habis dipikir secara kritikal. Dan aku rasa postmodern was the last conversation we had critically about design. Zaman Tan Sri, Lim Chong Kiat, Ijaz dan sebagainya, that they had a real strong argument about what architecture should be at the foundation of building a country.
I have a position on that lah. What I think is macam a lot of people community wise consider design ni as an output dah selesai. So even if we do go to clients, dia tanya first time meeting, design mana? Macam seolah-olah design tu boleh terkeluar as a product macam tu aja. But in essence, kalau kita nak cerita balik, apa benda ni design? Design ni apa benda dia?
Betul.
It's actually a process that allows you to solve a problem. Banyak orang tak tahu tu. They see bila kita cakap pasal design, oh bag ni cantik lah, dia design lah. What does that mean? Macam dia tiba-tiba jadi cantik?
Yeah.
Tak. Design is a process that leads to an outcome. The outcome is a product of resolving a problem, and that part of it is the aesthetics jugalah.
Yeah.
Dia jadi functional, dia jadi cantik, and dia jadi practical for any type of the purpose that is designed for. So I think somewhere along the lines we just accepted yang design tu dah ada, and process tu kita tinggal.
Betul.
Tinggal.
Betul.
So I think this is where yang banyak orang bukan kata tak faham, tapi it's been accepted in the public realm yang bila design tu macam mudah, dia terima aje, dia dapat aje. Tapi the outcome of that, the consequence of that is kita import design. So the process has been done dekat luar. Tak kisahlah European countries ke, Japanese ke, apa semua, where they've gone through that process and kita just import.
Betul.
Kita import and kita adopt.
Styling.
And styling. And so it's become very superficial. And bila kita tanya balik, takkan kita tak ada design kita?
I mean, I always believe that designing is actually at the end product is the manifestation of truth and reality. And truth and reality can also be subjective. Cumanya how intense you are, how strong you are in the ability to create that reality and truth. So, because at the end of the day, dia kena exist, dia kena ada value, dan dia kena ada demand.
Value, nilai.
Dan bila kita tengok benda tu dia bersangkut paut, then it's easy to obviously to commercialize the idea or to give way the idea, to spread the idea at a certain level of social structure. And I'm being very politically correct kan.
Kau beradab lah.
Apa nama buku Animal Farm?
Animal Farm,
Animal Farm. So through that lens alone, you can see different social structures sees truth and reality in their own manner.
Yes.
And I think design manifests that in everyday life.
No, great. So I think macam when we see design ni, tiap-tiap segmen masyarakat ada different understanding of design. Bila kita cerita
40.
so tu Malaysia punya lah. T20.
T20.
M40, B40. Is that how we would categorize design? Or it's kind of the accepted macam ni design B40, ni design M40.
In some sense the reality does inform you that, but would that be the truth? Aku rasa itu lagi satu in consideration lah. For example, you could be a T20 but you're new money, so most likely you're gonna get all the new stuff anyways, right?
So tak adalah macam balik pada perbincangan kita ni kan. A
KLDF.
lot of people KLDF ya, tapi I think it's trying to understand konteks kita ni. So that KLDF, we see the opportunity that KLDF presents, the potential yang dia ada. So kita boleh bawa perbincangan ni ke level yang patut lah. Sebab sekarang ni yang sihat. Sebab it shouldn't be, I think kita nak try to pecahkan that stigma lah. So maksudnya semua benda balik kepada T20, M40, B40, when it shouldn't be about that. Design ni dia cross segment, it affects everyone, it applies to everything. Cuma macam mana nak memberikan the access, and I think KLDF is a part of that. So it's to create conversation. So semua orang boleh bercakap, tak semestinya yang berpakaran aja, yang professional aja boleh bercakap pasal design. I think there's this opinion yang elite designers saja yang boleh bercakap pasal design, tapi dekat situ yang ada the detachment ataupun dia lose dia punya connection, because designers seem to think macam dia know everything. Dia tahu semua benda. But at ground level, at yang paling basic public level, there are real problems. So these real problems ni sometimes in a perfect world, design comes in to solve those problems, but it's not happening. So I think there's a mismatch. The public has problems, designers think they have the solution, but it's not meeting to get at a common point, at a middle point.
Selalunya dua perkara kenapa benda tak jadi. Tak cukup bajet, tak cukup masa.
Betul. That's the reality.
And we're not fighting enough for that sometimes. Because aku rasa, this is my opinion about most projects yang selalu aku kena. There's timeline that we need to adhere to, obviously, and the budget is usually unrealistic to the outcome that they want to.
But I think the other thing is sebenarnya when balik pada that conversation about process is inclusivity, and somewhere along the line that inclusivity was lost. Sebab yelah kita dah kotak kan, designer, public, dia tak ada merge dia. Aku fikir masalah korang and then korang kena telan aja apa yang aku cakap ni without the process of being inclusive. So I think this is where kita backtrack a little. Kita trying to find that common ground yang kita boleh berbincang, kita boleh dengar cakap pakar, kita boleh dengar cakap masalah dan rintihan the masses, and kita can come to solutions, which is design lah, the outcome of design. When we've got this design, kau apa tak kisahlah apa benda dia, fashion ke architecture ke
sama,
produk,
prinsipal dia sama,
apa-apa je.
prinsipal dia sama.
This is something yang dah ada value. Nilai versus nilai-nilai. So kalau nilai kita is just about being cheap and quick.
I'm gonna make a t-shirt out of that.
is about being cheap and quick. Benda tu tak ada nilai-nilai yang kita boleh export. So sekarang ni kita kena patah balik. Kita kena create something yang valuable, yang bernilai. Through this process of inclusiveness, kita solve real problems but in a very informed way. So by combining these different people, kita akan create something yang luar biasa, new value yang kita boleh export. This is the real identity of Malaysia.
Yeah.
And this is what we want to bring to the table and say, kita ada barang barang ni kita boleh bawa ke depan. Kita boleh promote it as Malaysian excellence. Sebelum tu aku macam dah haus sikit.
Wow, cantiknya.
Kita kat mana ni?
Kita dekat Flint Curve, Damansara. It's such a nice place. Thank you, host.
Kenapa kita buat kat sini? I think sebab it's a design environment.
Yeah, it's
something yang unique.
Yeah.
Lepas tu trendy.
Yeah, and with the greens, kind of like suit the theme for this year's Design Festival.
Okay.
Sustainable intelligence.
Alright.
Yeah, sustainable intelligence. So how we see.
Cuba cerita sikit. Apa sustainable intelligence ni pasal apa?
Sebenarnya rangkuman sustainable intelligence ni bermula dengan conversation dengan
Kepandaian lestari.
Kemampuan, kecerdasan mampan. I hope our PR team got that. yeah, but actually they wrote that piece, so it's a beautiful piece. Kecerdasan mampan ni dia membincangkan tentang bagaimana kita boleh hidup dengan ekologi tanpa terlalu dependent on high tech.
Okay.
High tech in terms of electronic dan sebagainya.
Okay.
I think bila kita tengok the simplicity of rumah Melayu solving ventilation problems,
okay,
you know, the stack effect
yeah,
dan sebagainya, there is intelligence behind that idea, and kita tak tahu dia ada mock-up ke proses macam standard. Tapi I think there are certain ways of pass down knowledge that we just refuse to accept and we don't want to use. Yang aku rasa dia partly yang merencatkan intelligence kita daripada our own origins, and we immediately leapfrog to something else yang may not even close to our climate, close to our context, that is sustainable to that environment specifically. So bila kita tengok arkitek-arkitek yang hebat, aku suka dengan Zamtor lah, because he understand the four seasons, he understand everything that goes about it, he understands emotion. Obviously we adhere him to some of the temples that he's done.
Yeah.
Aku rasa there's so much truth in local beauty. Kita ni macam susah sangat nak terima ataupun hadam ataupun reinvent or re-innovate or repurpose that idea or just put it as a very core center to those brilliance. Dan aku rasa this is where this topic can be more interesting.
Yeah. Sebenarnya macam yalah, dalam perbincangan kita ni banyak references luar lah.
Yeah.
But it's not to say yang kita kekurangan bakat, kita kekurangan talent. Sebenarnya talent tu ada wujud amongst us. I mean even masa dulu masa kita kat university, so many brilliant peers, and then at that point in time dulu kita selalu terbayangkan, oh si anu-anu ni maybe akan jadi this brilliant designer or architect in the future. But what has happened is satu, maybe they've deviated. I don't want to say deviated lah, let's change the word lah. Maybe they've decided to progress beyond your
It's a
normal
choice.
scope.
Yeah, it's a choice.
Yeah, and but then there
They
were
choose
others that macam up to a certain level they were not supported. So because of that, it either gets lost, the talent gets lost, or the talent is repurposed to something else.
Yeah.
So I think this is where in the context of design, macam if we can recognise that, if we can bawa balik naratif ni ke dalam perbincangan hari-hari, dia akan jadi sesuatu yang lebih bermakna lah.
Yeah. And I think like in today's world where the world is macam dahagakan diversity in fashion world, siapa kata sawo matang tak cantik?
Siapa kata so?
Siapa kata sawo matang cantik kan? But in essence what we're trying to get to is like macam what I firmly believe in design lah. It is a manifestation of truth and beauty kan?
Manifestation, yes.
Truth kan?
Truth.
Reality. So in that sense, anything is beautiful.
Okay.
And if you really look into it, but some things are just better made.
Okay, betul. Yeah.
Kan?
Yeah.
And in the world of design where it's make believe world, make believe in the real world lah kan. And there are new experiences to be gained and new functions to learn from. And kita tahu the goalpost is always moving.
Yeah.
Right? Where does it stop? We don't know. But aku rasa it's much more comfortable to be able to work with your own weaknesses and progress with your weaknesses rather than picking up things, like a collage of confusion. And benda ni aku rasa macam is very much the thing that makes aku rasa what makes the true beauty of, if you want to talk about KL as beauty, can be as pure as what KL would people find it to be.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
I think we kita pelan-pelan rediscovering kecantikan KL lah. I think over a long period of time macam KL was just taken for granted. It's a metropolitan city.
Oh, in the 90s.
In the 90s,
Yeah.
we just built things. Daya bumi, many great pieces of public buildings that I think has contributed to the fabric of our society. But kita macam lupa KL was in the backdrop without being conscious of what we built, what we are building, and what we are adding to this public realm. So I think through that there's been like you say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and maybe cantik, maybe tak cantik, tapi there are certain rules or guidelines yang maybe kita pun terlupa. Basic sort of arrangement of things to declutter Kuala Lumpur. So bila kita kadang tengok Kuala Lumpur ni memang cantik, cuma semak.
I remember we had a conversation masa hari tu dekat Clef and Datum. We were looking outside, we were talking about, this building, it was designed by someone, let's not name names.
Let's not name names.
And it could have been done like this and that, whatever. And start realizing the next conversation was the amount of luxury we have in this country to talk about how buildings can be done better is such a macam blessing.
Privilege.
Yeah, privilege. It's such a privilege to be able to talk like that. But some countries don't even get to.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. So and because of that, sometimes we require another perspective, a foreigner, to kind of present that back to us. Kita faham. Sebenarnya kita banyak sebenarnya to be happy about, to be content about,
grateful for.
But I think for us macam kita selalu compare with there's always the saying the grass is always greener kan. Sana lebih cantik, ni kita tak cantik. But sometimes kita kena look back and then try to find the essence and build on that lah. So this process, again I go back to process.
Cakar Ayam,
start balik daripada awal, and then we everything starts very rough lah. Then kita asah balik, kita mold balik, polish balik, bagi dia cantik balik. And KL, I think great cities are ever evolving. I think that is the essence of a great city. A great city, there will never be a city yang best forever. So through my journey, I think my background, I've lived and worked in Melbourne for a long time, probably about 12 years. The best time in Melbourne was when it was recreating itself. There was a journey towards becoming a city, a creative city, and through that process was when there was a lot of energy, a lot of vibrance, and people were attracted to that.
Wow,
to that
wow,
vibe.
wow.
So to me, that's what I think KL can be, and part of the tools or the platform for that is KLEF.
Yeah, just reminiscing some of the moments when I was in Korea. I got to see the stadium, the Dongdaemun Stadium.
Yeah.
Before it became the
baseball.
Yeah,
Okay.
baseball stadium. I got to see that before it became the Zaha
Yes.
building, and you get to see how government was so invested in design. It was because of the Seoul punya
Betul, yeah.
mayor was crazy about design. Anyway, masa aku kat sana, I mean, obviously I was in Busan first.
Yeah.
Following year I went to Seoul, and every consecutive year I'll be there. It's just that I got to see the beginning of how design was just transforming the entire country A to Z. And aku rasa in 2012, 13, 14, I can't remember. Seoul was the capital world design. And
It's soft selling lah kan?
yeah,
It's
soft power lah.
Soft power, yeah.
For them it was soft power. But look at what Hyundai is now. Well, look at what Kia is now. Samsung.
Yeah.
Right? And Samsung has one of the best art galleries, if not within this region.
That's right.
And aku bila cakap ni kan kadang-kadang rasa macam envious ada.
Okay.
Because ni depan mata kawan-kawan all that kan. But I envy it for my own country sebab we have our own struggles to grapple with kan.
That's right.
But at the end of the day, that sense of clarity, aku rasa that kind of partly contributed to the beginning of KLDF.
That's right. So I think macam it's a beginning. Cakar Ayam sikit.
Yeah.
KLDF started 2022.
Yeah.
Yang tu terpaling Cakar Ayam.
Oh wow. Talk about it.
Redah aja.
Yeah.
But 2023 is when KLDF becomes.
Yeah.
And it's to me it's the manifestation of pada peringkat awal tu Cakar Ayam, but it's slowly becoming something that we can look forward to, or we want to look forward to on an annual basis.
Yeah.
So going back to your reference to Korea, design was integral.
Yeah.
It was a part of community.
Yeah.
It was a part of life. We see it not only in the gadgets that we use. K-drama tak payah cerita lah. K-pop lagi lah.
Oh wow.
K-pop tak payah.
Wow.
So-
Imagine that.
So these are the things yang macam we've got so many things locally that we can utilize and we can take, but it needs to be curated and it needs to be developed so it's applicable to the modern day.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's interesting that you mentioned that sebab one of the more famous graphic designers in Korea, An Sang-soo, he is huge. He's a huge figure in Korea simply because of the modernization of the character of Hangul.
Okay.
And Hangul was huge, obviously because it's a native language.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, betul.
And
Understand.
you need to set it for television.
Yes.
Post Civil War, North Korea, South Korea, modernization was rampant. You need designers to actually build the country because you don't have Roman Latin templates.
Designers to build the country.
Exactly. So
Okay.
to
Kita tak pernah
me,
dengar.
to me, it was very important even at literature end that typography, design, everything comes with it. It has like a very strong integral history to the country itself, which lends to a lot more soft power at the end,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Literature writings from designers become curators, become artists. It's common because it's not art as a fluff, but art as a discourse.
Yeah.
How do we form and shape this country? Macam Cakar Ayam, right? Before a car becomes a car, it's a sketch. And when it becomes reality, people don't see that sketch or that idea or that argument, everything that comes, even though it's just tukar grill je.
Yeah.
And aku appreciate my friendship with people like macam chief designer Proton Azlan Osman, because he shares a lot of really powerful stuff. For an example, when the DRB was holding the shares for Proton. The structure was an accountant, engineer, and designer. It's not that design is not important, but it's important to the end product, that how it comes, because everything goes back to which market you're attacking, what product you're coming out, so on and so forth. But when Gili bought over, when it sold, and I think it was during the Prime Minister Najib, it was very interesting because suddenly he said, Razif, everything was flipped. Now designers have a bit more say, a bit more power to force things to make happen. And you get to see him coming out with interviews, Proton coming out interviews with him, what he thinks about the cards and so forth. If you really look into the chunk of the market today, especially when it comes to Proton, I think they've kind of like elevated their value again.
I think they have.
They have, right? They have,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, one of the things that is one of the biggest tax contributor to the country is automotive.
Yeah.
And Proton has been leading that ever since the Gili took over.
Yeah, but you're right. But I just want to frame this a little. The peranan design dalam this whole journey of Proton. Back in the 80s, when we were on this national route of creating our own vehicle or motor vehicle, design played a big part of it. Of course, macam adalah apa
Warna Merah Saga,
Merah Saga, etc.
Podcast Azali.
But the whole curation of the brand, the logo, etc. So these were all cultural production. Yang macam that contributed back to everybody. But then it came to a point yang macam ambil jalan senang. Kita rebatch je. Kita rebatch. Kita import, kita rebatch, and let's call it ours.
Let's talk about this because the foundation of the country was set the premise by the British industrialist.
Yeah.
And you get to see it impacted building bylaws, it impacted our industrialization, impacted
deeply
our
rooted
culture.
in our everyday. Yeah.
So our foundation country was British industrial sort of mindset, and to move out of it is very challenging and very difficult.
Betul.
Right? So now, how do we recreate ourselves? How do we reinvent ourselves as a nation again? It takes a really huge question because now we kind of like mutated into this different form of political quagmire, if you want to say it. Right? But this definition is starting to take a different shape, a different form. Yang aku rasa this old British industrial engine doesn't work and operate at the optimum level anymore.
That's right.
It's still a steam engine.
Yeah.
It's still a steam engine.
Yeah.
Right? For whatever reason, aku rasa dengan kedatangan, funny enough, kedatangan Tesla ke Malaysia, aku rasa dia akan merubah dia akan merubah sedikit elemen
I think so.
From governing to visual communication in government, information structure, etc. And hopefully KLDF can be that platform for all of us to be able to talk about moving away from the industrial punya sort of thought machine way, steam engine, to the future.
Oh, so that's how you see it. That's how
kind
you see how Proton kind of stagnated, and then Geely taking over, bringing that discussion slightly higher. It's a global conversation because we've got foreign partners, but then the whole EV industry, you think would change the landscape even totally.
Brother, what's the name of the car? Proton. Right? It's electric. It's neutrons.
That's right.
It's molecular.
I thought it was proton.
No.
Okay.
No. But aku rasa there is some coming to a sense of brilliantness what Malaysian is moving towards, and aku rasa that it really stands at the shoulder of the young today to take charge where they want to take the future.
I think that needs to be the message.
Yeah.
Needs to be the narrative moving forward. Yeah, macam generally, I mean, I didn't want to touch on this elections baru-baru ni, tapi the message is quite clear. We need a new way forward. Resipi lama dah tak work. We can't rely on past victories or past rhetoric. It needs to be about the future. There needs to be an empowerment, and it needs to be clear, direct, that the younger people have to take it as their responsibility, and there needs to be enough room for them to voice this out, be part of the conversation, so they can contribute to their own future. So funny enough that you say this, the technology coming in, the conversations that we're having. But it's an important conversation to have, and it can be had as well through design. Through design tu lah yang macam it's making things consumable, comprehensible, senang faham, senang hadam for everyone. Because it's visual. Dan sekarang ni orang pun dah malas baca. Everything is through infographic. Attention span sekejap. TikTok 9 saat. Whatever. So things need to be that we need to find ways where visual communication, visual and also audio plays a big part in this new narrative lah.
Aku cuma rasa macam the sense of cakar ayam is very crucial. It's very important because it's the first step to manifesting an idea. Tapi at the same time kan, this is not buts and ifs, and you know, I don't want to put the negative down energy. In fact, I want to add more energy to this conversation, especially coming closer to the festival.
Okay. When is the festival?
The festival is on the 6th of October to 15. We're sitting right in the middle between Singapore Design Week and also Bintaro Design Week.
Wow.
Okay. And we're super proud of our neighbouring countries. We're pushing design agenda on their end. And aku rasa, you know, shout out Singapore, shout out Bintaro, Jakarta, you guys are doing a fantastic job. And aku rasa macam, and itu Racha Ponen from Thailand.
Yes.
Dia cakap, Razif, why don't you bring Thailand into the picture? I think most of us agree Thailand, not a Latin script, and it has its own monster to deal with altogether. It's a brilliant, it's a brilliant world on its own. And moving forward, we would love to work with them. And hopefully, you know, moving forward, adding back to that energy, the whole thing that we wanted to build was actually the ASEAN Design Dialogue.
ASEAN
Design Dialogue. ASEAN Design Dialogue. So hopefully, design conversation do not stay in Eurocentric conversations anymore.
Correct.
I think we can have a more rounder shape of conversation about design in the ASEAN world, not just Asian. And you know, ASEAN is unique on its own.
It is very unique. It is very unique, and it's something that, again, it's been underutilized or under-recognized. Underwhelming even. But to that sense, I mean, now it's kind of self-reflection, looking at new ways of moving forward and looking at our closer cities. Malaysians, especially with AirAsia, suka travel. We've traveled a lot to our neighbouring countries. And sebenarnya there's always value there that we appreciate, being serumpun, etc. The whole archipelago of Nusantara. So these are all values that I think we can kind of refocus the centre to create a new narrative, which is less Eurocentric. Create our own value system. Again, nilai versus nilai-nilai. And I think these are things that we want to utilise to begin the discussion. So congratulations on setting up Kuala Lumpur Design Festival. This is something I've personally been looking forward to since last year, because I knew first year ni memang Cakar Ayam lah.
Cakar Ayam. But you know, I gotta give hats off to the team members, especially co-founder Shafiq and then Liana, Angela last year. And then all the associations that came in together to actually chip in the ideas. Parika, Rega, PAM Next, PAM, in fact, you know, some of the architects came in together. Sally was there, right? And I really wanna really kind of like thank them from the bottom of my heart, especially Malaysian Timber Board. They've been a very strong supporter to this idea, obviously. Now that we managed to go and meet Timbalan Perdana Menteri, Dato' Sri Haji Fadilah, I think we're hitting different levels for the design community, and
so getting the big guns
we really want to help. We really want to have the design community support us as much as they can. Obviously, you know, kita banyak job, we need to pay the bills. At the same time, any community service to design community will also serve the design industry and economy as well. So
So what are we hoping daripada show ni? Apa yang kita harapkan?
The way we carve it out is we have the public programs, we have professionals and businesses and trade businesses. So for the public, we have performances, music, film, exhibition, installation, things that they can experience firsthand. It's actually free, so all you need to do is register. It's ticketed. I think we'll announce it sometime early September. And then for professionals, we have the usual conferences, forums. CPD Points ada kot.
Okay. Kena apply.
Kena apply.
Okay.
And then we have workshops. I think one of the most important parts that we wanted to do was actually document a lot of those forums and dialogues.
Yeah.
Because we have very interesting topics coming up. Kudos to our program director Daniel Ismail, an Oxford grad. Yeah, Oxford grad, I think. So he was also part of the curatorial team for the Istanbul Design Week.
Alright.
Now he's our program director. He's done a fantastic job putting things together, and him and his team, Gary Young from XYZ, Sam from Not to Scale, and then we have John Teo from Chow Team, helping us for the programs, and also Zul Amran, 33.3, shout out.
So banyak orang involved.
Yeah.
It's not a small thing.
It's not a small team. We have brilliant minds, and I can tell you these are people who are legit in their profession.
Yeah. So I think what's the next step? The next step needs the support of the community.
Yeah, support community, especially the business end.
Yeah.
I think especially the kilang or the furniture makers in Muar, in Penang, in Johor. I think waiting for them to come up and see what design can offer them.
What design can offer them? I think that's the question, okay?
Yeah, that's
macam how do you participate? You don't necessarily kena jadi designer. You don't necessarily need to have a sijil or certificate or degree in design to participate.
No.
But I think the message is macam design affects everyone.
Yeah.
And it's important for everyone to be a part of that conversation.
Yeah, let's capitalize on that.
Let's capitalize on that.
Yeah.
But I think this brings us to nanti our next episode where we will be talking about design discourse, perbincangan di dalam seni reka, and why it's important lah.
Yeah.
And why it needs to be proactive rather than reactive.
Yeah.
For us to take the whole nation on this journey so that we can also see value in who we are. Thank you very much, Razif, for first episode.
Thanks, Pian. I mean, thanks to the production team. Rasa benda ni dah lama nak
It's long
buat.
overdue.
Yeah,
I think I've talked to Zuhaimi about this macam for a long time. It's been baking. It's been baking. I think I'm quite happy that we finally had it. But again, semua benda kita hanya merancang. Bila dah everything falls in place, tu kuasa Tuhan. And I think things happen for a reason.
Alhamdulillah.
And timing wise kita tak ada control, but you know it's probably the time is now.
Wow. Truth to be told kan, benda ni like I mentioned, it's compounded over so many years to see it come to fruition. I have to give credit to Dato' Izu, started the Kuala Lumpur Design Week back in 2008. Without him, Si Juan, the entire gang, I wouldn't be able to understand the scale, the work, the operation that it takes to make it happen, even at the very foundation scale. So I got a shout out to them.
Nice. So macam lapar ni.
Yeah.
Makan nasi lemak.
Sounds good.
Nasi lemak sini macam menarik.
Aku suka sambal-sambal dia.
Siapa sambal dia?
Sambal dia macam-macam jenis lah.
Oh,
ada sambal.
Banyak sambal?
Pantai Timur, sambal Disney.
Banyak sambal?
Ya, banyak sambal.
Kena try
I can't wait.
Awesome. Okay, thank you very much. I think we've come to the end of our first episode of Cakar Ayam.
Cakar Ayam.
Ad hoc betul.
Ad hoc teruk.
Hopefully if you have any questions, as my kids would say,
please put the comment section.
Subscribe, comment, and like.
And like.
And hopefully we can build on the conversations. To make design a lot more inclusive for everyone.
It's not just for designers, and I think it's important for public to understand that. Malaysians.
till the next episode.
Okay. Till next episode. See you guys.